Waiting for me?
I don't know. I don't. I just wanted to be awkward for a second. Okay. I just wanted to be awkward. And who broke first? You did, and that's perfect.
Fair enough. All right. Well,
Welcome,
I guess
everybody.
I'm glad I played along.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks for playing along. Welcome to the Long Way Around podcast. I'm Tony.
And I'm Kevin.
We're back today, and winter isn't coming. Winter is here. Winter is here, and
For some
so
of us.
I mean,
fine. You are in Phoenix, Arizona.
Fine. I mean, we have winter too. It just doesn't get cold. It just is.
Yeah, that's winter technically, but it's not. You know, it's not a real winter.
Look, when it's 115 in the summer, I will take 50 during the day.
Yeah,
that's. I mean, like people around here throw on sweatshirts when it's 70 outside.
I do always find that so funny about like people who live in warm weather cities that like when it's 70s here, and for our listeners' reference, I'm near Chicago, like 70s is like, yeah, t-shirt, shorts, it's summer.
Yeah, like people are getting naked.
Yeah,
right?
Basically.
Like, sun's out, guns out, or buns, depending. I mean, maybe both if you got them. Yeah, like I remember when I lived in Minnesota, and on a 40-degree day with no clouds and no wind, it's t-shirt weather.
Yeah, but in Minnesota that makes sense.
I mean, I didn't understand it until I lived it, and I was like, yep, I get it now. Break out the grill.
Minneapolis is a great city, but I would never live there just because of the amount of snow they get.
I didn't even live in Minneapolis. I lived like 45 minutes outside Minneapolis.
Yeah, still.
Yeah, I mean there was more snow and more wind. By the way, Minneapolis, I love you. I do.
It's a great city in the summer.
I love you, Minneapolis. You're wonderful. So today we're talking about what it's like to live in cold weather versus warm weather. And I'm just gonna say it right now: warm weather, maybe not all day, because here in Phoenix it gets a little excessive, right? Like it gets a little excessive sometimes. You know, your winter in Chicago is my summer here in Phoenix. You just don't go outside.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we're like entering that time of year now here in Chicago. You know, I feel like most people with a mobility issue or disability would say that like warm weather is better. If I had to guess,
which is why I don't understand why we have friends and relatives, and even you. I mean, you're not you're a friend. So why do you live? Why do you live there?
You know, Tony, I ask myself that every year, and I've asked myself that every year for the 34 years of my existence, and I still couldn't tell you why. I mean, Chicago is an amazing city. It really is. You know, it's huge. It's so diverse. I mean, it just has so much going for it. And even like the transit here is pretty good when it's working, and you know the elevators aren't broken. But you know, I think it really comes down to this is all I've really ever known. I've only ever lived in the state of Illinois, mostly the Chicagoland area, minus 5 years of college at Illinois State, which is in like central Illinois. But yeah, I think it just comes down to, this is what I've always known, and my friends are here. Most of my family is here. Yeah, but that being said, there has to be a point in my life, I think, where at the very least I'm a snowbird in the winter, where I go somewhere like Arizona or elsewhere for a few months, get out of this cold weather, and then come back. Because summertime Chi is the best. Like, you can't beat Chicago in the summer. It is beautiful. It's it's easily the best time to be here. Yeah, but I gotta be a snowbird at some point, which I'm sure you deal with plenty of those people in Arizona.
Oh, for sure. They're here now. They're all here now. They're all flying in. That sounded like a dead seagull. And so, okay. So for your relatives that no longer live in the Chicago area, they moved to?
Well, I actually have an aunt in Scottsdale,
See,
kind
Scottsdale,
of,
Arizona.
kind of near you. Yeah, an aunt and uncle in Scottsdale. I have my brother and his wife and kids who live in San Francisco,
Warm,
which is somewhat.
warmer.
Yeah, San Francisco is a very weird climate. They like never get like really hot days. It's just always like 60s, 50s,
Yeah.
kind of cooler. It's like its own microclimate. And then I have a cousin in Indianapolis and a cousin in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, not warmer.
So not warmer.
Not
No.
warmer.
So yeah, I guess the family members who went to San Francisco and Phoenix were smart to get out of the cold
Yeah.
weather. The rest of us are just stuck here,
Gluttons for punishment. Look, I've
basically.
I've lived in both because I don't have a sense of home, so I've just like moved around my entire life.
Yeah.
And so I've done both. I've lived in the Phoenix area for most of my adult life. I spent time in Minnesota. I spent time in New England. And it is cold in both places. I also spent some time in South Korea, and it gets cold during the winter. It can anyway get cold during the winter in South Korea. Not Minnesota cold. That Minnesota cold is like its own level of cold.
Yeah.
There's nothing that I've experienced that's quite like it. Like I've never been to Montana or Wyoming during the winter or like the coldest parts of Canada. Like I've never been to any of those places. Minnesota though does not mess around.
It's wild.
So I lived there for a short period of time. It was 2013 through 2014. And man, it was like the worst winter they had in like 20 years.
Of course.
It was wild. It was wild. And so when I lived there, I mean, it snows, it's cold, and it's tough when you have especially if you have a mobility impairment and you use a power wheelchair. Living in cold weather climate is rough
Yeah.
because I mean, we're already naturally kind of cold as it is because we don't move around a lot, right? So our circulation is already a little bit slower than the walkies, and so like once it gets below like 50, like your feet are frozen already,
So true.
right?
So true. And I wear AFOs too. So it's like plastic. So I got plastic, like I'm wearing socks in them, but that makes my feet even colder, which is terrible.
Yeah. And so when it's cold and you just can't get warm, like you just cannot get warm. and
No.
and the worst part about it, see, I'm a little bit different than you because you drive with your head, right? You have controls, and you can do this with your head and get your chair around. I use my arm when I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt and a sweatshirt and a jacket. How hard do you think that is to get this thing to move around?
That's one of the reasons I drive with my head because I have the same problem. Like, even just like I'll have my phone in my hand and I'm in my wheelchair, and like even just sending a text is so much harder when you're wearing like a winter jacket or anything like that because it limits your range of motion in your arms even more than we already have to deal with.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't tell you how many times I almost drove off something just because I
Yeah,
can't control the chair. And oh my God, let me tell you, the coldest I've ever experienced, it was it was negative 45 wind chill outside. And so when I lived in Minnesota, I lived in a house that was next to the shop where I worked. And it was like maybe like 300 feet from door to door. And let me tell you, with that wind chill, it takes no time for icicles to start forming on your eyelashes. Have you ever been outside when icicles form on your eyelashes?
I have. It sucks.
That hurt. I mean, I was
It's
like,
brutal.
I didn't know what was going on at first, and then I realized I was like, oh my God, the things you see in movies and TV shows is like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I experienced it. And I honestly, I just had to sit outside for a moment just to like take it in because the wind was blowing. It was harsh. Like I had a jacket and like 4 layers of top on. I had sweatpants and my regular pants on top of that. And then I had like 2 pair of socks and my boots, my snow boots on. Man, it was
Yeah.
wild. I was just like, I just had to sit out in it and take it in for a moment. And then I immediately got inside after that because it was cold.
Yeah.
And then you get inside a climate controlled building, and now you're wearing all these clothes, and you can't get them all off. Like, you can get the top off, but your bottom is just sweating all day.
Yep.
You can't win.
Yeah. It's people don't realize the struggle of like dealing with winter clothes for someone who can't easily like get themselves dressed and undressed. Like there have been times where I'm just wherever I am and I'm inside and I'm just sitting in my jacket, and it's like, God, I wish I could take this off, because
Yeah.
I'm so hot. But it's like, well, I'd rather be a little hot inside than freezing my butt off outside.
Yeah, well, the worst part about it though is like your feet and your legs and your junk is all sweaty, and then you get back outside, and now you're even more cold because your bottom half is a little bit moist from
Right.
the sweat, and now you're even colder.
Right.
It's
It's
awful.
it's just a never ending cycle.
Like, you can't win. You
You know
cannot
what's
win.
even worse? I used to commute for work, and I would have to be at the train station at 6 in the morning.
Oh, F that. Oh,
Oh my God. There is perhaps no worse feeling than walking up to a train station at 6 in the morning when it's pitch black outside and the wind chill is like -10.
yeah,
It
gross.
is, oh God, it's so brutal. Like even when I did this, sometimes my older brother who lives in San Francisco would do it with me because he'd come into town for his job. And there were a few times where he looked at me and he was like, Kev, I'm not gonna lie to you. This sucks. This is so terrible.
It is. Oh my God, it is. It is. And so, like, when you have a mobility impairment, like, I can't even imagine what it's like for people on crutches, like people who use
Oh,
crutches to get around, or
I
like,
I empathize with those people because like to use crutches, like you have to have some strength and you got to build that up. So like if you're new to it in the winter and you got to deal with that, like you're just asking for problems.
yeah, I mean, like, and like sometimes the sidewalks are iced over, or like if you use a manual chair, having to push through all that stuff, can't even imagine. So, like, maybe we're a little bit fortunate using the power chair. It,
Yeah,
I mean, at least for the crutchies and the pushies, like, you can at least like get some heat going by moving around,
right.
right? So, I guess it's a little give and take for everybody.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's something that a lot of municipalities are really bad at is removing snow from the sidewalks. I don't understand why like it's seen differently than the roads, even though the sidewalk is also a public right of way, but it's just
it-
something that like doesn't happen.
no,
Like my village does not shovel the sidewalks, generally speaking, where I live. And that's just been like an issue my entire life that for some reason we've never really worked on.
never got that figured out. And it was the same problem when I lived in New Hampshire. It was the same thing. Like, the sidewalks
Mhm.
would be completely snowed over. And so when I lived in Durham, so Durham is like a kind of coastal town where the University of New Hampshire is. And I would, during the winter, I would have to ride in the streets. I would have to ride in the streets because, like, there was just snow everywhere.
Mhm.
Everywhere. And so, like, I had no choice. Like, if I needed to go to the grocery store, for food to live, I just had
Yeah.
to roll in the street. And, Durham is a small enough town where, like, it's fine. You can do that because people will just drive around you, no
Yeah.
problem, right? Um, so I mean, it's not super safe. I mean, like, to be fair, one time I did have some fun in Durham. Um, my cat has just arrived. Hello, Mister.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, why is everything shaking?
Yeah,
I thought I saw the door behind you
earthquake.
slide open
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit.
It did. Now that you mention it, he wanted to come in. He wanted
I
to
see
come in,
that.
and so he just pushed the door open. And he was like, "I'm coming in," because although I pay the rent here, he's the one that actually owns the house. So,
Yes.
yeah. So he's hanging out. Say hi, Bluebee. Nope. He's just nope. He's like nope. So one year when I was living in Durham, there was like 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground, and I don't know where the idea spawned, but my friend had a snowboard, and so I said, let's go snowboarding. And so she grabbed a snowboard, and Like we went up to the main street in Durham, which is called Main Street because why not? And we were rolling through the street. I was pulling her on her snowboard, and for like 5 minutes we became Vine famous. Rest in peace, Vine.
Vine.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we became Vine famous for like 30 seconds. Like people at work the next day were like, "Oh my God, I saw you on Vine." And I was like, "Oh yep, that was me. That was us."
You might be the only person to become famous on Vine.
No, maybe. So I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like it's nice. And look, and the snow is like gorgeous and blah 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 blah, and apple cider and mulled wine and blah 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 blah. It sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, like going into that environment for a day or two is cool. Like if you're gonna
Yeah.
go on a ski trip, that's
Right.
fine. When the snow arrives in like November and doesn't leave till April,
It's brutal.
eh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like snow on December 25th. Outside of that, I really don't. Like if it didn't snow at all the rest of the time, I wouldn't care.
You'd be fine with it. You would be fine with it.
Yeah.
Give me like a foot of snow on Christmas Eve, and
Yeah.
then just let it melt over the course of the week.
I actually had a similar experience. And it wasn't going to a grocery store, but I got home from work. This was when I commuted again.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an old Chevy Express van with a wheelchair lift at the time. And this thing was like, it was old. It had taken a beating at this point. And I'm like on the train, and this is when I lived with my parents, and my mom texted me. She's like, the van isn't starting. And it's like actively snowing, and like it had been snowing like all day. And like this train station is or was a mile from where they lived. So like during the summer, I would ride home from there all the time.
Yeah.
But like the winter, it's a completely different story. So she texted me this, and I'm just like, what am I going to do? And she was like, I think you're just going to have to ride home on the side of the road. And like, this was not like a main street. This like it was a main street in the sense that there was a lot of traffic, but like it was not like your small town main street. It was like 2 lanes in each direction, median. Like it was a busy road.
Yeah.
So my dad drove over, and he basically was my buffer. He basically drove behind me at like a snail's pace essentially, and trying to tell people to go around.
You get the blinkers on, right? You get the emergency flashers on.
Yeah, because he was worried like someone might not see me and just like slam into me.
Right.
But yeah, like it's so dangerous, and like I wish people understood like taking your wheelchair out in the winter can really be like a matter of life or death sometimes, depending on what you have to do.
Yeah. And I got friends who live all over the place too, right? And I question all the time, why do you live like I have friends who live in Minnesota, we got friends who live in New England, I've got friends who live in like we met some folks at the Arthrogryposis conference who live in like Idaho.
Yeah.
Right. It gets
like
cold
really
up there.
Cold and rural places.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know how you do it. I could barely survive I didn't live in any cities when I lived in Minnesota or New England. I don't know how you do it. I mean, you probably just stay inside the entire winter, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, during the winter, it's very much like, you can go to stores and you can like run errands, but like outside of that, like I'm kind of stuck at home like a lot of the time. Because like it's too cold to bring the wheelchair outside. And like that's another thing is like when you don't use a wheelchair as much, it can affect your battery. So like I've had to get really good about like, okay, I'm charging this, twice a week at the very minimum, so that my batteries don't just like crap out, because I've had it a lot of times where at the end of the winter, all of a sudden, like my chair can't hold a charge because I barely used it.
Man, that's crazy. And it's like, okay, so you stay inside. Thank goodness now these days, Instacart and Grubhub and DoorDash and I'm gonna call it Postmates. I don't want to call it Uber Eats. Postmates was great. And like you can do that now, and so like other people can risk their lives to bring stuff to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that certainly helps. Like having Prime, I mean, that's one of the main reasons I subscribe to Prime. Is just like sometimes it's like, oh man, I need this like really quickly. 2 day shipping, can't go wrong.
Right. And the other issue with that though, not just like with like the door delivery, whatever's, is like when you have caregivers that don't live within walking distance, they gotta drive to you during the
Yeah,
winter. And man, that's always a challenge because now they gotta drive to you so that way you can get what you need, right?
yeah.
And like you're just hoping and praying that like they're willing to drive in that weather. And if
Literally
they
just had a
are,
conversation with the caregiver about this morning.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. My camera is shaking again. We got a little mini cat
yeah.
earthquake, feline earthquake in here. And so like it's just tough, man. It's just
Yeah.
it's just tough. And
You're
so
basically always hoping that you never get like a really bad snowstorm. Those
yeah.
don't happen every year, at least in Chicago, luckily. But like
Oh, in
there
New
have been
England
a
they do.
couple times since I've lived here where the caregiver will text me the night before being like, hey, there's a ton of snow, like I'm not going to be able to get there tomorrow. And then you're like, okay, well, what do I do?
Yeah, it's
uh
awful.
yeah, it's a feeling that I really wish upon no one. Usually you're able to figure it out, and like I do try to find caregivers who live relatively close to me, but like that's hard. I mean, it's just a matter of like finding people who are close enough and willing and able to help you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean like winters are tough, man. And like, I understand why people want to live at home with family, right? We've talked about this before about, venturing off on your own and living independently versus living at home, especially when you live in a cold weather climate or where the weather is awful, for parts of the year. You want that security, man.
Yeah.
You
Oh
want that
yeah.
security of knowing that you're going to be able to get out of bed.
No,
You know,
but seriously, I've always said that if I ever move to another city, it'll never be a city that gets more snow than Chicago. Like it's got to be south of here, pretty much.
yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. So yeah, just I don't know. And look, this like when places are great. Like places like that are cold can be great places to live. It's just like during the winter, it's so challenging for all the
yeah,
reasons we just talked about. Now, that's not to say that warm places don't suck in their own right too. Um, especially if you live in a place that's humid,
yeah.
right?
Like
Like,
Florida.
yeah, like I don't, I don't know, especially if you have a mobility impairment, like living in a really humid place can be tough. Some people have respiratory issues, right? And so like the humidity in the air makes it harder to breathe.
Yeah,
Um, Other people have skin issues. Like I remember living in New England. New England can get humid and kind of hot during the summer. Nowhere near as hot as like Phoenix, right?
hmm,
The humidity combined with the heat though would do some crazy things to my skin.
yeah,
Like there were parts of my body that were breaking down I didn't even know existed, right? And
yeah,
to be honest, like I was bigger then, right? Like I'm probably like 120-ish pounds now. I was closer to like 160 pounds when I was living out there. And there were
hmm,
parts of my body like it just becomes like a little tiny little like you know warm water oven bath, like when you make a cheesecake. It's just like moist and hot all the time,
yeah,
which sounds
yeah.
fun. It's not fun.
No, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. I like warm weather, but you're right. The humidity, especially like I just naturally sweat a lot, and it is just brutal.
Yeah, and like you got to watch your skin because like things break down when it's hot all the time and there's pressure on your skin. Like things get weird, and so you have to like
Yeah,
make sure you're well powdered, or at least figure out ways to stay dry. And so that can be challenging when you need to go outside or when you want to go outside during the summer in Chicago. You want to be outside because you know what the other like 4 or 5 months of the year are like when you
yeah.
can't go outside. So you want to be outside as much as possible.
The first warm day, it's wild. It's like everyone's outside,
Yeah.
you know. Like every spring, it happens.
Yeah, and people are nice,
Yeah,
right? Like people are happy,
right. Literally.
you know? And so like unless you live in like San Diego where the weather's like 70 to 80 all year,
Hmm.
like every place you live is going to have some kind of problem with the weather
Yeah.
when you have a mobility issue. It's just like if it's hot and humid, you got to deal with skin problems. If it's cold, you got to deal with like not being able to go anywhere and the multitude of other problems that you have. So,
Hmm.
um, I would be interested to know for people who are watching this episode, if you live in a cold weather area or a really like hot and humid area, how do you handle it? How do you deal with these things? Um, because not everybody can live in the Bay Area or San Diego because A, California, B, it's expensive, C, California. And so like how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know because I've moved all over the place, and there's a reason I keep coming back to Arizona. And Arizona's not perfect. It
It's
just
not, but it's definitely good for people with disabilities. I feel like there's a big community out there.
there is a pretty large disability community out here. Even though I was doing some research the other day, and I discovered that percentage wise in the population, Puerto Rico has the highest disability population,
Interesting.
like percentage wise. Like
Yeah.
like 22% of the population in Puerto Rico has a disability. That's really and like
It's not
most
high.
other states aren't even close.
Yeah. Huh. I
Why
never knew that.
why Puerto Rico?
What's like the average, would you say,
What do you
when you were
mean?
doing that?
Oh, when I
Like,
was looking at it, it was like
yeah.
13 to 15% of that state's population had a
Okay.
disability, roughly, right in
Yeah.
that range. And there were some with a little bit more and some with a little bit less, but like 13 to 15% was about the average.
Okay. Wow. Huh.
And so why Puerto Rico? Hmm? I want to know. I want to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I don't know on that one.
Puerto
Do you
Riqueño, tell me.
like when you lived in cold weather, did you ever have issues with like, oh man, like my back or my knee is like really stiff now that it's cold?
No, no, I didn't. I don't really have those issues. I mean, like I broke my leg once years and years ago, and for a while when it would get cold, like my leg would hurt, the one that was broken. Like I would feel a little pain in my leg. That doesn't really
Hmm.
happen so much now. Um, so I didn't really deal with that. I will say, in defense of winter, one thing I love to do is do donuts on the ice patches.
Yeah.
That I love doing that.
Yeah. That's a good time.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And hot chocolate or tea or just a warm beverage is great when it's cold. Some
Hmm.
soup, it's wonderful. Winter does have some great things about it. It's just
It
like
does.
if it could only last maybe 2 or 3 months instead of like 4 to 5, I'd be okay
And
with that.
never get below like 40 degrees.
No, I will say, you know what? I'll give it 30. We need ice. If we're gonna do donuts, we need it to be at least 30 degrees.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
You know, I'll even let it get down to like the high 20s, no lower than 27 though. You
Yeah.
can only do it for like 2 or 3 days. That year that I spent in Minnesota, we had 30 days below zero.
Oh my God. 30 days below zero.
Yes.
Jeez. That's a
Yes.
lot.
It was intense. It
Yeah.
was, oh man. Yeah. That
Were
that
your
was rough.
caregivers able to get to you?
Look, I kind of lived out in the sticks, and like if you live out in the sticks, you don't care.
Hmm.
Right? Like I feel like the city makes us weak. Living in the city makes us weak.
Yeah. Yeah, to a degree. I think there's a lot of factors behind that,
I mean,
but
sure. We have the
yeah.
conveniences of modern life in the city, so we become weak. When
Hmm.
you live out in the sticks, like you're fighting off like wild boars and and giant monsters, right? And you gotta like dig wells for your water. Like
Yeah.
so like I feel like when you live out in the sticks, like you don't care as much. Like that stuff doesn't bother you. And like if you live out there, you probably got big tires on your car or chains or something to navigate that, right? In a bottle of whiskey and some cigarettes.
Right. I mean, I guess in a more rural area, there's a lot less that could go wrong just because like there aren't as many cars on the road or
There are
yeah.
deer.
There are
And
deer, yes.
and deer make a lot of things go wrong if you've ever lived out in the middle of nowhere.
Dude, you gotta be careful. Like there's a road right by me that like I see deer all the time and I'm just like waiting for one to just dart out in front. I hope it doesn't never happens.
Oh
But
man.
yeah.
We're living in Minnesota. I saw a lot of Bambi's friends
Yeah.
laying on the side of the road.
Oof.
Because it happens. It's nighttime. They jump out, boom,
Yeah.
done. You know,
Yeah.
and that, and when it's cold outside like that, I mean, they're not really that out when it's that cold because they're usually like they've already eaten and they're hibernating for the most part at that point. Um, but yeah, man, it's just like, and I don't want this to be like let's shit on winter the whole time. I mean, because like winter can be great for some things. It's just like
Yeah.
when you live with a mobility impairment, like I don't know how you do it your entire life, Kevin Sullivan.
I, I honestly don't know. I think I've just gotten used to it. It's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, I guess.
Fair, okay.
Yeah, yeah. You just like, well, whatever, it's okay. Um, I mean, summer definitely has its drawbacks too. Like, I know, being a sweaty individual as I am, like, there are some times where when it's getting in the 80s, 90s, and like the humidity in Chicago can be really bad too in
Yeah,
the summer. And it's just, I can tell, like, you were talking about the skin issues. I can tell sometimes it's like, oh, I've been sitting too long. Like I gotta get up and like alleviate some pressure from
yeah.
my backside. So that's a real concern when it's like super hot out and you just like can't get any ventilation.
Yeah, so I'm curious to know what you all do out there, because like I said, unless you live in San Diego, like no place has perfect weather. Like
No.
there are a few places I will never ever ever live. And interestingly enough, they're all like hot, humid places.
Okay, what are they?
Like anywhere in Florida.
Yeah, same. I don't want to live in Florida.
It's so humid down there. Hurricanes,
Yeah,
no thank you.
exactly.
Like I don't want to be seen on like some like national news video like floating away in my wheelchair being carried away by hurricane floodwaters. All right.
Yeah.
Houston.
It can also rain at like any moment in
Yeah,
Florida.
right. True. True. Houston, Texas is another place. And Houston's got a lot of great people, a lot of great things about Houston. Also hurricanes. Um Also super hot, super humid. I will never do that. If I were to live in a cold area again, I would have to live in the city where there's at least some sort of infrastructure,
Yeah, for sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I tell people sometimes like when I lived in New England, if I had a place in Boston, I might still be there. Maybe, I don't know. Um,
Hmm.
I just feel like there's more infrastructure in the cities where you can at least take care of some of that stuff. Um, so I wouldn't completely shut out living in a colder area again. It's just like the
Yeah.
hot, humid places I couldn't do anywhere along the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, like Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, the
You said
eastern part.
Houston was one of those that you wouldn't live in?
Yeah, because like Houston's right there on the Gulf, right?
Yeah.
Like I could not. I don't think I could do it. Like you're regularly getting up to like the 90s, low hundreds, and the
Yeah.
humidity is like up in the high 90s, right? Like
Yeah.
no, thank you. I can't do that.
No.
No, at least in Arizona, even if it's 115, it's dry,
Right.
you
See, I
know.
feel like the places I would never want to live are mostly cold weather cities. And also like, and don't get me wrong, they're great cities, but like Seattle, Portland, like where it just rains all the
Wet.
time. Yeah. Like I can't live in a very cold city or a very wet city.
Yeah, because especially if you use a power wheelchair, being wet all the time, not great.
That's just asking for
It
problems.
is asking for a lot of problems. So yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that. No to Seattle, no to Portland, no to Vancouver.
We're all great cities.
Yeah,
All great
all great.
cities.
I have
Yeah.
friends that live in all those places though.
Hmm.
How they do it? I mean, they just like you, they just kind of used to it. They just what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. See, like I could not deal with just like rain all the time. I would never go anywhere. I feel like that's even to a degree, like snow can be limiting, but like at least if it's not actively snowing and there's not much on the ground, you can deal with it. But
Yeah.
like if it's raining, I mean, my wheelchair, especially with the head array, because they're all like sensors, I can't bring it out in the rain or it thinks I'm trying to go different directions than I'm
Yeah.
really going, you know?
Yeah, and then you end up rolling off the sidewalk inadvertently.
Literally, like, yeah, it's legitimately dangerous to do it.
Yeah. And at least with snow, like if you get piled on with snow, you can shake off the snow,
Right.
right? Like you're not shaking off the rain. You're not a dog,
Yeah.
right? So,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if that was an argument for or against like, cold or warm weather. It was just us really complaining. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's our opinion. What so like when you even now, like what do you do to maintain sanity when you're like stuck inside, whether it's hot or cold outside?
Well, I will say this, and I tell other people this too. When it's hot here in Phoenix during the day and you don't go outside, you can at least go outside at night, even though it's still like it's like a convection oven outside because it's just hot. However,
Yeah,
without the sun beating down on you, you can at
it's bearable.
least handle it, right? Like
Yeah.
during the winter when it's cold outside during the day and you don't want to go outside, you especially don't want to go outside at night,
Oh,
right?
true.
And
Oh, yeah.
so that's one advantage of living in a warm or hot weather place is that when the sun goes down, you can at least kind of manage it.
Right.
And so like during the winter when you can't go outside, like you're just like I think those are the moments where like you become an artist, right? Like you sit in front of the fire and you write or you paint or you create your next great work and
Yeah.
because that's all you can really do. Otherwise you're just watching TV all day.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I mean, there's not you can't go outside. What are you gonna do? Might as well make
Right.
something.
Right.
You
Yeah. You
know?
just got to be productive.
Yeah,
You
be
know,
paint.
have some projects.
Yeah, draw. You can write. You know, you can learn yoga.
Yeah.
Something. I mean,
Is that what we do? We do yoga.
yeah, we do during the winter. Hot yoga during the winter time.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, because I just think like when I lived in those cold weather places, like you just you I mean I had to go outside because I had to go into work, right? So I had to go outside.
Yeah.
um those days that I didn't have to go outside though, like what do you like, you're just stuck all day inside,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you got to find ways to occupy your time. It can get a little wild though.
Yeah. I'll admit you got to avoid the stir crazy a little bit, and at least I do in the winter. It's tough after like when it's like, oh my God, is it ever going to get warm again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. So again, I don't know if this was an argument for or against. I will say though, if I have to choose one over the other, like extreme cold or extreme heat wins by a small margin.
Yeah. It's a tough call because you can always add more layers, but you can't. There's only so many clothes you can take off in extreme
Yes.
heat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It just when you put on all those clothes, it makes it harder for you to move around. Right.
Yeah,
That
that is true.
Yeah. And I need freedom when I'm sitting in this chair. Like I need to be able to like see things. In my phone, you can't see it because it's off camera. It's down here by my hand. And so when I've got even a sweatshirt makes it hard for me to see my phone.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
so like that's where it gets tough. So I
Mhm.
yeah. So like hot weather wins by a small margin.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, there's good and bad to both. This
Yeah.
really isn't an argument for one or the other. It's just kind of stating our experiences.
Yeah. And I know some people who use wheelchairs who love the cold weather. They love
Yeah.
it. You know, good for you. Stay there because I don't want you here to drive up the rent anymore. So,
And at the same time, Florida, while it is humid and it has hurricanes, like it is a very accessible state because there are just a lot of people with mobility issues, whether they're disabled or they're elderly. So, you know, it works for some people. It does.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. So good for you. Stay there, please.
Don't drive up our rents anymore.
No, don't drive up the rents anymore. So, all right. Well, on that note, hooray summer, hooray winter.
Tis the season.
Yeah, tis the season. Happy holidays to you all. Do something cool, do something fun. Whether you're in a warm place or a cold place, do something fun. This has been the Long Way Around podcast. I'm Tony.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.